Welcome to the channel, where we unravel the raw truth behind love and betrayal. I was stirring a pot of chili on a quiet Thursday evening, the kind of night where the world feels small and safe, when my phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with a text from my wife, Elise. "I can't do this anymore. I need to be free." 6 words. No explanation. Just a blade of ice through the warmth of our kitchen in Portland. I froze, the wooden spoon slipping from my hand, splattering sauce on the stove. My chest tightened, like someone had reached in and squeezed my heart. I reread the message, hoping I'd misunderstood, but the words didn't change. After 9 years of marriage, Elise had just dropped a bomb, and I was left standing in the wreckage. We'd met at a community theater in Seattle, back when I was a stagehand and she was a lighting designer with dreams bigger than the spotlight. I was drawn to her laugh, the way it filled a room, and her ambition, the kind that made you believe in magic. We moved to Portland 5 years ago, chasing her dream job at a tech firm while I worked remotely as a graphic designer. The first few years were a whirlwind. Late-night talks, weekend hikes in the Columbia Gorge, her hand always finding mine. But lately, she'd been a ghost in our home. Her laughter replaced by sighs, her warmth by a wall I couldn't climb. I thought it was stress. I was wrong. The next morning, I woke to the sound of her heels on the hardwood floor. She was already dressed, black slacks, a crisp white blouse, her blonde hair swept into a low ponytail. "I'll be late tonight," she said, her voice clipped, her hazel eyes avoiding mine as she grabbed her laptop bag. I sat at the kitchen island, nursing a coffee that had gone cold, my throat tight with unspoken questions. The air felt heavy, like the moment before a storm breaks. "Elise, about your text," I started, my voice trembling despite my effort to keep it steady. She cut me off, sharp and dismissive. "Not now, Nathan. I can't." She was out the door before I could blink, leaving me with the echo of her words and a sinking feeling I couldn't shake. I stared at the empty space where she'd stood, the sunlight streaming through the window casting long shadows on the floor. It felt like a spotlight on a stage where I no longer knew my lines. When she finally came home that night, the air was thick with tension, a palpable weight pressing against my chest. She dropped her bag on the floor with a dull thud, kicked off her shoes, and sat on the edge of our gray sectional, her hands clasped tightly as if she were bracing for impact. I stood by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass, my reflection a ghostly blur. "I meant what I said," she began, her tone flat, like she was reading a script she'd rehearsed 100 times. "I feel suffocated. I love you, Nathan, but I don't know if I'm in love with you anymore. I need space to figure out who I am." Her words hit like a punch, each one a blow to the foundation I'd thought we'd built together. I turned to face her, searching for the woman who used to laugh at my terrible sketches, who'd curl into me during late-night thunderstorms, her breath warm against my shoulder. But she wasn't there. Her eyes, those hazel eyes I'd once gotten lost in, flickered with something I couldn't place, a mix of defiance and guilt that made my stomach churn. "Is there someone else?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, afraid of the answer but needing to know. She shook her head too quickly, her lips pressing into a thin line. "No, it's not like that." But the way her fingers twitched, the way she looked past me to the wall, told a different story. I wanted to scream, to demand the truth, but my body felt heavy, like I was sinking into quicksand. I didn't argue, couldn't. My mind was a storm of hurt and confusion, a whirlwind of memories clashing with the present. I nodded, letting the silence stretch between us, a chasm I didn't know how to cross. "Okay," I said finally, my voice hollow, echoing in the quiet room. "Take your space." She stood, her shoulders relaxing as if she'd won something, and walked to our bedroom, her steps deliberate, almost triumphant. I stayed on the couch, the rain outside a steady drumbeat against the window, replaying every moment of the past year. When had I lost her? Was it the late nights she blamed on work, her phone lighting up with notifications she'd quickly dismiss? The way she'd stopped kissing me goodnight, her lips brushing my cheek instead, a formality rather than a feeling? Or had it been earlier, buried in the cracks I'd refused to see? I thought of the day we'd moved into this house, laughing as we unpacked boxes, her teasing me about my terrible packing skills. "You're hopeless, Nathan," she'd said, her smile brighter than the summer sun. Now that memory felt like a ghost, haunting the space between us. I buried my face in my hands, the weight of her words pressing down on me, and for the first time in years, I felt utterly alone. The weeks that followed were a slow unraveling, each day peeling back another layer of the life I thought I knew. Elise became a stranger in our home, her presence a shadow that slipped through my fingers. She stopped wearing her wedding ring, saying it caught on her keyboard. Her excuse as flimsy as the lies I was starting to see through. Her phone was always in her hand, her fingers tapping out messages she'd shielded from me. Her screen tilted just out of view. She'd come home late, her lavender perfume mixed with something sharper. Cologne, maybe? And her excuses were a broken record. "Client dinner," she'd say, her voice too casual, or "team drinks." Her eyes darting away as she spoke. I wanted to believe her, to cling to the hope that this was just a phase. But the signs were piling up like leaves in autumn, impossible to ignore. One evening, while she was in the bath, the sound of water splashing softly behind the closed door, her phone buzzed on the coffee table. I shouldn't have looked, but the weight of my suspicion was heavier than my guilt. I glanced at the screen. A text from Mark. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for Friday." My hands shook as I set the phone down, my heart a drumbeat in my chest, loud and relentless. I stared at the message, the words searing into my mind, and felt a crack form in the foundation of my trust. I thought of the nights I'd spent waiting for her, the dinners I'd cooked that went cold on the table, the way I'd convinced myself her distance was my fault. Had I been blind, or had I just not wanted to see? I didn't confront her, not yet. Instead, I started paying attention, piecing together the puzzle of her lies with a meticulousness that felt foreign to me. I noticed the new silk scarf she wore on work nights, a deep emerald green that shimmered in the light, a color she'd never worn for me. The way her laugh sounded different, lighter, freer. When she was on the phone in the other room, the door cracked just enough for her voice to carry. I found a parking stub from a downtown lounge we'd never been to, tucked in her coat pocket, the date stamped from a night she'd claimed to be at the office. Each discovery was a shard of glass, cutting deeper, embedding itself in my chest. But I held them close, building a picture I didn't want to see. I remembered the way she used to sketch lighting designs on napkins at our favorite diner, her eyes bright with passion, her hand brushing mine as she explained her vision. I'd loved her ambition, the way she dreamed in color and light, and I'd thought I was part of that dream. Now, I wondered if she'd ever looked at me that way, or if I'd just been a prop in her story, a placeholder until someone else took the stage. I started keeping a journal, a small leather notebook I hid in my desk drawer, jotting down the dates of her late nights, the excuses she gave, the way her smile never reached her eyes anymore. It wasn't about revenge. It was about understanding, about reclaiming the truth she'd taken from me. The truth came crashing down one rainy afternoon at a bookstore on Hawthorne, the smell of old books and coffee filling the air. I was picking up a graphic novel, a distraction from the storm in my mind, when I ran into Elisa's coworker, Jenna, in the fiction aisle. She smiled, but her eyes were cautious, like she knew something I didn't. "How's Elise holding up with all the overtime?" she asked, her tone too casual, her fingers tightening around the book she held. I frowned, playing along, my heart already racing. "She's been swamped. Late nights every week." Jenna's brow furrowed, her hesitation palpable. "Really? She hasn't stayed past 5 in ages. Maybe she's working from home." My stomach dropped, a cold wave washing over me. I forced a smile, thanked her, and walked away, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. That night, I waited until Elise was asleep, her soft breathing filling the darkened bedroom, and checked her tablet, left charging on the counter. Her calendar was blank for those late nights, a void that confirmed my fears, but her messages weren't. A chat with Mark. "You make me feel seen, like I'm more than just a role I play." I closed the tablet, my breath shallow, the room spinning around me. Scene. Had I ever made her feel that way? I thought of the nights we'd spent on the balcony, wrapped in a blanket, counting stars over the city skyline. Her head on my shoulder as we dreamed of the future. Had those moments been a lie, or had I just not been enough to keep her here? I could have stormed into the bedroom, demanded answers, let my anger spill over like a dam breaking. But I didn't. Anger burns fast. Strategy burns slow, and I needed to be deliberate if I was going to survive this. I started pulling back, mirroring her distance with a precision that felt surgical. Each move a calculated step toward reclaiming my dignity. I stopped leaving notes on the fridge, the little "I love you" messages I'd written in Sharpie every morning. I stopped asking about her day, my questions replaced by a silence that felt louder than words. I stopped brewing her favorite chamomile tea at night, the ritual we'd shared after long days. Her thanking me with a soft smile that used to make my heart ache in the best way. I wasn't cruel, just absent, a ghost in my own home. And she noticed, her frustration bubbling to the surface like a pot left too long on the stove. One evening, as I sat sketching at the dining table, my pencil scratching against the paper in the dim light of a single lamp, she snapped, "Why are you so distant, Nathan?" Her voice was sharp, edged with irritation, but there was something else there. Fear, maybe, or guilt. I looked up, my pencil still, and met her gaze, my eyes steady despite the storm inside me. "I'm giving you the freedom you wanted," I said, my voice calm, cutting through the tension like a knife. Her lips parted, but no words came, her hazel eyes wide with a flicker of doubt that felt like a small victory. I went back to my sketch, a jagged cityscape that mirrored the chaos in my mind, and let her stew in the silence I'd created. The breaking point came on a chilly Friday night, the kind of evening where the air bites at your skin and the city feels alive with secrets. Elise said she was grabbing drinks with coworkers at a bar in the Pearl District, her voice light, almost performative, as she slipped on her coat. I nodded, my face a mask of indifference, but my mind was racing. I waited an hour, the clock on the wall ticking louder with each passing minute, then drove to the bar, the streets slick with rain under the glow of streetlights. Her silver Audi wasn't in the lot, the absence of her car a silent confirmation of my suspicions. I checked her location. She'd never turned off the app we used for road trips, a small oversight on her part that felt like a lifeline for me. She was at a boutique hotel on the waterfront, the kind of place we'd never stayed, with its sleek glass facade and promises of luxury. My hands gripped the steering wheel, the rain blurring the windshield as I sat there, the city lights fracturing in my vision like broken glass. I pictured her in a dimly lit room, laughing with him, her hand on his arm, her eyes bright with a joy she hadn't shown me in months. The image burned, a fire in my chest I couldn't extinguish, and I felt a tear slip down my cheek, hot against the cold of my skin. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. I drove home, the hum of the engine a dull roar in my ears, poured a glass of bourbon, and waited, the amber liquid catching the light like a warning, a beacon in the dark. When she walked in at 2 a.m., her coat draped over her arm, her makeup smudged, she froze at the sight of me on the couch, the bourbon glass in my hand glinting in the low light. "Good time?" I asked, my voice steady, my eyes locked on hers, searching for a crack in her facade. She stammered, her voice trembling. It was fine. Just drinks." Her fingers clutched her coat tighter, her knuckles white, her eyes darting to the floor as if the truth might be written there. I sipped my bourbon, letting the silence stretch, heavy and accusing, a weight that pressed down on us both. "You're lying," I said finally, setting the glass down with a soft clink that echoed in the quiet room. "I know where you were, Elise. I know about Mark." Her face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes, her carefully constructed mask slipping away. I watched her, my heart a mix of rage and sorrow, and felt the last threads of our marriage snap. "I'm done playing your game," I said, my voice low, each word a stone dropped into the abyss between us. I stood, my shadow long against the wall, and watched her unravel. her sobs filling the room like a haunting melody. She tried to explain, her words spilling out in a rush, stress, loneliness, feeling trapped, but they were empty, a script she'd rehearsed for someone else. I thought about the nights I'd stayed up designing logos while she dreamed beside me, the mornings we danced in the kitchen to old jazz records, her laughter a song I'd thought would never end. Had any of it been real? I didn't know anymore, but I knew I deserved better. I looked at her, my voice low but firm, a quiet resolve settling over me. I'm filing for divorce. You can keep the house. I'm out. Her sobs grew louder, her hands reaching for me, but I stepped back, the distance between us a chasm too wide to bridge. What about you, listeners? Have you ever had to face a truth that broke your heart, but set you free? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you found your strength. The next morning, I packed a suitcase while Elise watched from the doorway. Her eyes red, her arms crossed. "Nathan, please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't mean for this. I got lost. I can change." I zipped the bag, my hands steady, and turned to her. "You wrote me out of your story a long time ago, Elise. I'm just finishing the chapter." I moved in with my brother in Eugene, a 2-hour drive that felt like a lifetime. Elise called, texted, left voicemails, apologies, promises, please. "I never thought you'd leave," she cried in one message, her voice raw. I didn't reply. She'd bet on my loyalty, but I wasn't her anchor anymore. I was my own. Months later, I heard from Jenna that Mark had moved on, leaving Elise to pick up the pieces of her shattered confidence. She'd quit her job, started therapy, but the spark she chased was gone. I didn't celebrate her pain. I didn't need to. I'd already won by choosing myself. I rented a small apartment in Eugene, started painting again, joined a local art group. I even went on a few dates, nothing serious, just enough to remind me I could feel again. Sometimes, I'd walk by the Willamette River, the water glinting in the sun, and think of the places we'd loved. The theater, the gorge, our kitchen. They didn't hurt anymore. They were just memories, faded like old photographs. I learned something through all of this. Love isn't just about holding on. It's about knowing when to let go, when to choose yourself over a story that no longer fits. Elise thought she could rewrite our love, but I wrote the ending, one where I walked away whole. I'm still here, still healing, but I'm free. And that's enough. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and join our community. We share stories of heartbreak and healing every week. Drop a comment. What would you have done in my place? And don't forget to share this with someone who needs to hear it. This is the Cheating Stories Diary, where we turn pain into power. Until next time, stay true to yourself.